Hey guys, quick one for today. DJI just updated the Fly app to version 1.4.0, and although this update was primarily done to support the new Air 2S, they also made some really nice usability improvements, which I think are just awesome. In this short video, I'm gonna go over the new camera controls and show you a couple of tricks as well. So yeah, let's get right to it. Now I have my Mini 2 set to video mode and auto exposure, and pretty much everything looks the same as before, but you will notice some new controls in the bottom right hand corner. The biggest change here is that the storage and video settings used to be combined as one item, and now they are separate. But more importantly, you can now tap on the video settings control and actually make changes, which I think is just super handy. One thing you may notice though is the auto exposure lock icon is missing. So how do we lock our exposure now? Well, the easiest way to do it is to tap the center of the screen and you will see a set of yellow brackets appear. While those yellow brackets are on the screen, if you touch and hold in the center of those brackets, a yellow lock icon appears along with the message auto exposure locked. Your exposure will stay locked until you repeat the same steps to unlock it, or you can also just tap on the exposure value control and move the slider to unlock it as well. So make note that if you want to adjust the exposure value, you need to do that first before locking the exposure. Otherwise, adjusting the value will disengage auto exposure lock. Now to check if the exposure is locked or not, simply tap any open area of the screen, the yellow brackets will appear, and if you don't see a lock icon, the exposure is not locked. Switching over to manual mode, if we tap on auto at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you will notice that the M has been replaced by Pro. So manual mode is now called Pro mode. Going through the controls from top to bottom, left to right, we have video resolution and frame rate, shutter speed, ISO, storage, white balance, which is totally awesome, and which I will explain in a little bit. Now, first off, I just have to say that I am so stoked to finally have white balance control right on the main screen. This is something that I have wanted for a long time, right back to the original Mini. So I think what DJI needs to do here is put the white balance control down there with the other ones, and then make it a nice little pop-up like shutter speed so you can actually see what you're adjusting. There's a lot to love about having the white balance control right on the main screen. For one, it means you no longer have to go into the settings menu to see what you have it set to or to change the value. It's just right there in front of you. Another nice touch is when you're set to auto white balance, you will notice a tiny little A appears next to the control to remind you that you are in fact in auto and that your color will fluctuate. Oh, and by the way, you never want to use auto white balance for shooting video, which brings me to my next trick. If you want to lock down your white balance but don't know how to set it, just tap on the white balance control, and if auto is on, just turn it off. That's all you have to do. The initial white balance value will be the same as auto, but now it won't fluctuate. It's locked down. If you need to adjust it because it doesn't look quite right, just move the slider. If you need to do a white balance reset, just switch auto on, then switch it off, and the manual white balance value will be reset to what the camera system thinks is the correct color temperature value. And finally, the last control in Pro mode is not a control at all. which stands for manual mode, is there to tell you the difference between the exposure you have set and what the camera thinks the correct exposure should be. The plus or minus value indicates how much you are overexposed or underexposed based on what the camera system thinks is the correct exposure. So an value of minus 0.3 means the camera system thinks you're underexposed or too dark by 1/3 of a stop, whereas an value of +1 means that you are overexposed or too bright by 1 stop. Now, if we quickly flip over to photo mode, there is one additional control called format. If you tap on that, you can switch between shooting JPEG only or JPEG plus RAW photos. Of course though, if you're flying the Mini 1, which cannot shoot RAW photos sadly, only the JPEG option will appear. And that is it for this one, guys. I hope that gave you a good rundown of the new changes in camera controls, and maybe you learned a new trick or two as well. I have more videos coming up about setting exposure, HDR photos, night photography, and much more. So please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, you guessed it, I will see you in the next one. Bye.